it's just time for a quick recap of the week, and we begin with North Korea, voted top Korea by We Meant It Geographically magazine. Now, this week, the June 12th summit between the US and North Korea was suddenly back on after Trump met with a North Korean envoy who had brought him this gigantic, comically oversized letter from Kim Jong Un. And as if smiling while holding a letter from a dictator were not enough of a propaganda coup for North Korea, the president then raved about the letter to the press.
Oh, would you like to see what was in that letter? Would you like... How much? How much? It was a very interesting letter, and at some point it may be appropriate, I'll be able to give it to you, maybe.
Wow. Look, as infuriating a president as Trump is, he would be an even worse Moses. Oh, wouldn't you like to see what's on these tablets? How much? How much? Maybe I'll show you later, if you're lucky. And if that wasn't weird enough, just 8 minutes later, after calling the contents of the letter interesting, this happened.
I haven't seen the letter yet. I purposely didn't open the letter. I haven't opened it. I didn't open it in front of the director. I said, would you want me to open it? He said, you can read it later. I may be in for a big surprise, folks.
Yeah, you might, though. Because you just agreed to a summit without reading the contents of the letter that supposedly convinced you to do it. So, worst case scenario, it's a declaration of war. Best case scenario, it says, Donald, it's me, I have run away to North Korea and I'm never coming back. Melania, brackets, your third wife. But for now, let's move on to Ukraine, or as Vladimir Putin calls it, bonus Russia. Ukraine was rocked this week by some horrifying news.
A prominent Russian journalist critical of Moscow's policies in Ukraine and Syria has been shot and killed in Kiev.
Yes, Arkady Babchenko, a prominent Putin critic, was tragically murdered on Tuesday. And that's what made what happened on Wednesday even more remarkable.
His friends, his family, even his wife thought he was dead. But today, a shocking turn of events. A Russian journalist, Arkady Babchenko, turned up alive on Ukrainian TV. As it turns out, his fake death was all part of what was described as a special operation to take down a team of Russian assassins.
It's true. Babchenko faked his death to bring down a team of Russian assassins, which sounds less like a legitimate news story than the plot of a spy thriller called Your Dad Would Really Love This Book. Apparently, the plan to fake his death came about after authorities learned of a $40,000 contract to assassinate him, paid for by Russian forces. The plot was allegedly organised by a man identified only as Mr. G, which I assume refers to this man. That's right, Kenny, your cover is finally blown, and it's obvious in hindsight, you simply can't play jazz as smooth as that without secretly being a monster. And look, some of the details of this fake assassination are amazing. Apparently, a makeup artist came to Babchenko's apartment to stage his death, and his wife later found him like this, lying face down in a pool of his own blood, which it turns out was actually pig's blood. He was then transferred to an ambulance, pronounced dead, and taken to a morgue where, according to him, he turned on the TV and watched the news of his own murder, which is objectively pretty cool. The only way it could have been any cooler is if he watched it while sipping cocktails on a Caribbean beach with Tupac Shakur. And look, his co-workers were understandably amazed by this surprise news conference. I mean, that is truly incredible to watch, mainly because of how refreshing it is to see an office where people actually like their co-workers. Normally, if an office found out a co-worker they thought had died was actually alive, they just quietly nod and go right back to talking shit about him on G-Chat. But other media... Some of you laughed too hard at that. But other media colleagues were not quite as thrilled as CNN discovered when they reached out to one of his friends on the phone.
I think the overriding emotion that we all have right now is that, you know, we're very pissed off because he sort of put us through hell.
Yeah, and you know what? That's an understandable response. In fact, I believe the Apostle Paul's first words to the resurrected Jesus were, "Real funny, shitbird." And look, it wasn't just his colleagues with cause to be angry, as a London radio host pointed out.
And he apologised to his wife. Wait for this. Good Lord. He apologised to his wife because she knew nothing about any of this. So when she found her husband at the foot of the stairs in a pool of blood, having apparently been shot in the back. That was very real to her. That is, my goodness me, it's going to take quite a bunch of flowers to get over that, isn't it?
It is. And you're right, he probably should get his wife some flowers, and he won't actually have to spend any money on them since he can pick up a ton for free at his own grave. Now, later reports indicated that Babchenko's wife was actually also in on the hoax, but at this point, who can know anything anymore? Is he even married? Or is his wife just Babchenko in a dress, holding a fake passport, ready to flee the country? And that is the problem here. And it's why some reporters criticise Babchenko, arguing that this plays into Russia's hands in dismissing actual crimes as fake news. And Babchenko has been borderline cocky in the wake of this operation.
Having cheated death, Arkady Babchenko says he will live to dance on Vladimir Putin's grave.
Well, I really hope that's true, Babs, but I wouldn't be so sure. First, you're implying that because you successfully faked your death, you're somehow immune from future assassination, which I don't think is how anything works. And more importantly, you're assuming that Putin will end up in a grave. And there's just no way that's true, because when Putin does die in 400 years, his body will simply explode into hundreds of bats that scatter into the night sky. That is simply a fact. Now, finally tonight, we'd like to move on to the United Kingdom, where, now that Prince Harry is officially off the market, the country's most eligible bachelor is this man, Mervyn Gerscorp Crawlings, from the village of Mudford Sock. He can't hear you, so could you please speak up? Oh, and he's 32 years old, so your move, ladies. Now, if you were one of the tens of millions who watched last month's royal wedding, you may remember seeing this man, the chairman of the British Monarchist Society, who appeared on TV to provide colour commentary about the royal family.
What we're seeing is quite the change. I mean, she's brought a California lifestyle to Britain. She's slimming him down. She's putting him on shakes, eating less meat. What Brit do you know that doesn't like meat?
Well, I'll take this one. Morrissey. I mean, pretty famously, Morrissey. Try it. Offer him a steak sometime and see what happens. Now, that man is Thomas J. Mace Archer Mills Esquire. And if you think that's the most British he gets, just look at this actual photo of him. Taken, I assume, at the Alice in Wonderland rap party, or in the year 1865, the only two times that outfit should be legal. Well, this week, we learned something absolutely amazing about him.
This royal expert sure seemed like the real deal.
What Meghan wore was absolutely ideal for the ceremony.
But get this royal expert is from New York. He was born Tommy Muscatello in the small upstate town of Bolton Landing.
It's true. That British man is actually Tommy Muscatello from New York. And that is a destabilising thing to learn. Because if this guy isn't British, who the fuck is? Am I actually British? Well, let me reassure you, my parents are listed in my phone as Mr. and Mrs. Oliver, so I am definitely British. And what is most galling about Tommy Muscatello is that, as a defender of the monarchy, he used his airtime to argue that Meghan Markle was a brash interloper who needed to proceed with care.
You do not upstage the future queen of this country, especially when you're coming in the way you are. When you start to take the spotlight from someone like Catherine, and then you swoop into the United Kingdom, here I am,
the
American, and you're wanting to really upstage the Duchess of Cambridge and the future queen, I won't have it.
Oh, you won't have it, will you? You won't have it? Well, let me make this perfectly clear. Meghan Markle's American passport is not an insult to anyone. The name Thomas J. Mace Archer Mills Esquire, however, is offensively British. That is the equivalent of a British person pretending to be an American and calling themselves Jefferson Budweiser McNuggets Jr. It's actively racist. And since he was outed as an American, he has done a round of interviews in which he's doubled down on his Britishness, and it's a bloody brilliant rubbish fire to behold. Just look at what happened when he was asked a pretty obvious question.
I have to ask you, how did you get your British accent?
It's what I was taught. It's what I studied through online courses and also practicing with my people that I consider close friends and family.
Oh, do you? Marvellous! Online courses? I'm calling bullshit on that one, unless University of Phoenix actually offers a class called How to Convince People You're Not from Upstate New York by Dressing Like Mr. Toad and Doing a C- Hugh Grant impression. And in case you are wondering about that close friends and family line, he apparently has an agreement with two unrelated elderly British individuals to call them his grandfather and grandmother. So apparently he went to Europe, met an old lady, asked her to be his grandmother, and now he knows all about the monarchy. And if that sounds at all familiar to you, it's because it's literally the exact backstory of Babar the elephant. And when he was pressed on all this, he got a little testy.
I stopped living in New York when I was in my teens.
Okay.
And the way I speak is the way I speak. It's natural to me. I am good at what I do. I'm knowledgeable in my subject, and anyone can go up against me. I know more about the British monarchy than most people in Britain.
You know what? That might actually be true, and that should have tipped everyone off the whole time, because most British people really don't care either way about the monarchy. That makes him clearly an imposter. But the thing that bothers me the most here is that pretending to be British by becoming a royal expert is just so lazy. If you really want to pull the wool over people's eyes, get a spot on The Daily Show, bide your time, perfect your stupid fake accent, and eventually land your own weekly programme on HBO. Ooh, have I said too much? Have I said too much? And now, this.
And now, the very British put-downs of Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow.
Mr. Doherty Hughes, you're in a very emotional condition. Let me just say to the honourable gentleman who I've known for a long time, I think when he comes to reflect on his conduct, he'll know he can do better than that. Those prating away should cease doing so. It's stupid and counterproductive. Both sides are still shouting their heads off. It's very down market, it's very low grade. You are an exceptionally boisterous fellow, and in the course of your boisterous behaviour, you appear to be chewing some sort of gum. You may be a cheeky chappie, but you're also an exceptionally noisy one. You were much better behaved when you were at Oxford University. What's happened to you, man? Mr. Pound, calm yourself. You're supposed to be a senior statesman. Calm yourself, man. Get a grip of yourself, man. Calm yourself. Take up yoga. I would recommend you take some sort of soothing medicament or go and lie down for a little while. You'll probably feel better at the end of it. Let me very gently say to the assiduous but slightly over-enthusiastic government whip, the honourable gentleman, the member for Hexham, that his role is to be seen and not heard.
He was born and raised in Brooklyn. Now, moving on. Our main story tonight concerns senior citizens, the people who stay active by playing shuffleboard, going on walks, or performing their hit song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, in front of packed arenas around the world. Now, many senior citizens remain active and independent, like this woman who CNN interviewed when she was 104 and who shared her secret for good health.
Now, you're drinking Dr. Pepper right now.
That's exactly right. That stuff is good. It's got sugar in it. And two doctors have told me that if I drink it, I will die, but they died first.
Okay, well, follow-up question. Did you kill those two doctors? Because you seem awfully proud of that fact. I'm not saying that you did, I'm just saying serial killers always want recognition for their crimes. Now, we currently have a lot of senior citizens. Right now, over 49 million Americans are 65 and older, and that number is expected to sharply increase in a demographic surge that some have called the Silver Tsunami, which is also apparently the nickname that Christopher Plummer goes by at his underground cage fighting ring. He's 57 and 0. If you get caught in the Silver Tsunami's flurry of fists, you're waking up in the hospital. But the truth here is, not everyone is going to remain as sharp and self-sufficient in their old age as that murderer laughing at her dead doctors. Unavoidably, some of us are going to wind up needing extra care, and that could place us in a system called guardianship. And I'll let a Maryland judge explain it to you as a camera pushes relentlessly into his face.
A guardian is someone appointed by the court to act on behalf of an individual who is under a mental or physical disability, and as a result, is unable to make responsible decisions about his or her care or property.
He's right, and you should know that zoom wasn't actually planned. The cameraman was just so taken by the judge's animal magnetism, he couldn't resist moving in closer and closer. The final shot was just the camera pressed up against his mustache. But the fact is, guardianship is an important, valuable tool. And here is how it works, basically. Let's say an elderly person who lives alone is showing signs of dementia. Any concerned person could petition a court, which might decide to appoint a guardian to help them make important decisions. That guardian could be a family member, or if there is no family, or if the family's fighting, the court might appoint a private guardian, a professional who is paid to manage their affairs. And when this system works, it's great. But it probably won't surprise you that that is not what this story is about. That's simply not what we do on I Just Wanted to Watch a Comedy Show and Go to Sleep, but now I'm sad with Johnny Joykiller. because let me show you what can happen when guardianship goes wrong. Take the case of Rudy and Rennie North. They were living together happily in Las Vegas when one day there was a knock on their door. And I'll let Rudy take it from here.
So I opened the door and they said that they were officers of the court.
Rudy says the officers gave the couple 3 options. 1,
we call the police. 2, we have you go to a psychiatric ward.
Choice 3, an assisted living facility.
Well, that is 3 terrible options there. It's like playing fuck, marry, kill with the Chipmunks. None of them. None of that from any of them. I'll kill myself. I'm taking the easy way out. But it is true. There was a knock on the North's door, and they were suddenly moved to a facility by a woman they had never met before, who was given control of them by a judge who they had also never met. And by the time they got out from under that guardian's control 2 years later, most of their money was gone. Something that Rudy is still understandably furious about.
They're strippers. They strip your clothes. They strip everything from you. We have nothing left. No money, no assets, nothing. Nothing left.
And you know what? I really feel for him, although I also must defend strippers here because they get rid of their own clothes, not somebody else's. Because someone who walks around getting rid of other people's clothes is either a criminal or Tan France from the reboot of Queer Eye. So tonight, let's talk about our system of guardianship. And the first thing you should know is that far more people are under it than you may think. One study estimated the figure to be around 1.3 million people. And the next thing you should know is that guardians can have a huge amount of power over people under their care or their wards. Now, because they may have to make financial and health decisions, they can have access to everything from wards' bank accounts to their health records. And as for the wards themselves, they can lose a lot of their rights, from being able to vote in elections to being able to get married. So this is no small thing, as one judge who awards guardianships will tell you.
Guardianship is a massive intrusion into a person's life.
They lose a lot of rights.
In fact, they lose more rights than someone who goes to prison.
Less rights than someone in prison? That is pretty shocking. Basically, the only things that you do have the right to do in prison are sleep, eat, work out, and occasionally play backgammon with Phil Spector. He's really good at it. It's all he does now. He's finished with the killing. That was just a phase for Phil. And the fact that guardians gain control of their ward's finances is where things can get problematic, because private guardians can bill for each individual service they provide, from leaving voice messages to just opening the mail. And they can take payment directly out of their ward's estate. And those charges can accumulate fast and sometimes seem ridiculous. For instance, the family of a woman named Marie Long objected to her guardians taking her on a weirdly expensive outing.
Just look at what Sun Valley charged Marie to send her and their worker to a Phoenix Suns basketball game. Over $1,000 for research, phone calls, a limo. Sun Valley even charged Marie $228 to determine the effect of the game on her mood.
Exactly. They charged her $228 to figure out how a Phoenix Suns game affected her mood, which is absurd, because I'll tell you that for free. It was a Phoenix Suns game. It made her sad. Try it yourself. Go to a game and see if it improves your mood to see Dragan Bender put up 4 points and 1.5 rebounds. Spoiler alert, it won't. And when Rudy and Rennie's guardian, a woman named April Parks, was confronted over some of what she charged them for, she didn't exactly stand her ground.
Rudy and Rennie were charged $780 each for court filings and travel time to court on the same days in 2013.
That's over $1,500.
You're absolutely
to
right.
this couple.
You're absolutely right.
Who you're saying doesn't have enough money already.
We will happily reverse those charges out.
How about $108 Parks charged Rennie to buy her a pair of stretch pants?
Does $108 for stretch pants seem
No, it
reasonable?
doesn't. And I'm happy to reverse that.
Yeah, but you can't just do a bunch of shitty things and then say, I'll reverse it. This is someone's life, not a fucking Missy Elliott song. Although, in fairness, you do probably need good stretch pants if you're going to put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. And the Norths weren't the only ones who had questions about April Parks' bullying practices. She had up to 100 wards at a single time. And in a court case involving a different ward, a curious fact emerged.
Parks was a no-show in court, but her voice was heard through her own financial records, which are almost laughable.
Some days were over 100 hours of billing. That's not physically possible.
Yeah, 100 hours a day is not physically possible unless she was working on the planet Mercury, where, as we all know, each day lasts 1,407 Earth hours. I'll be honest, that's a joke exclusively designed for Neil deGrasse Tyson, so I do hope you enjoyed it, Dr. Tyson, because absolutely nobody else did. Actually, out of interest, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, but the time you gave was the rotation rate of Mercury. That's not the same thing as a day. A day on Mercury would be from sunrise to sunrise, of course. And on Mercury, that lasts 3 times longer than what you just gave.
Shut up, Neil! Shut up! Why do you have to ruin everything? Just enjoy something for once in your fucking life! What is wrong with you, you feckless... Oh, never mind. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Bad idea. And look, April Parks' cavalier approach to her wards continued even after some of them died, because when this guy here bought a storage unit at auction, you will never guess what he found.
27 urns, 27 sets of different ashes, some a few years old, others from the early 2000s.
Somebody had the gall to store a family member in a storage unit like that.
That somebody, according to Valley Funeral Home directors, was this woman, April Parks.
It's true, she just left urns full of other people's family members in a storage unit. And the only way that could have been in worse taste was if she poured them into a piñata for a 9-year-old's birthday party. Happy birthday, Matthew. 9's a fun age. Now, Parks was eventually arrested. Not for the urn thing, by the way, which was completely legal. And she is currently facing trial on over 200 felony charges, including racketeering, theft, exploitation, and perjury. But you're probably wondering, well, how did she even get so many wards in the first place? Why didn't the Federal Bureau of Guardian Oversight step in to stop her? Well, that's mainly because that agency doesn't exist. We just made it up, and the fact that one of the symbols on that logo was just Harvey Keitel's face should have really been a giveaway for you. The fact is, though, guardianship is the responsibility of state and local courts, meaning in most places, everything about it, from who becomes one, to who they oversee, to what they can charge, is up to local judges, who may be elected and may have no legal training. For instance, in much of Texas, guardianship decisions are made by county judges, and only 29 of the judges in those 211 counties are lawyers. The rest, as one judge put it, are farmers, car dealers, and insurance salesmen. And those courts can be so overworked that they do not have the resources to monitor cases properly. When Texas recently audited their guardianships, they found that over 3,000 wards had died without the court knowing. And are they alive or dead is the absolute least you should know about someone under your care. If a zookeeper didn't know that 3,000 of his animals were dead, you'd put someone else in charge of that fucking zoo, or at the very least rebrand it as an open-air exotic meat market. And on top of all this, only 12 states require professional guardians to be certified at all. So just about anyone can become one. And when the Government Accountability Office looked into this a few years ago, their findings were truly troubling.
Most jobs handling even small amounts of cash require some sort of criminal background check and/or a credit check. But the GAO found in most cases, guardians for the elderly can handle millions of dollars, and states have failed to require either.
And it's like putting the, fox in the chicken coop, basically. And of course, they're going to steal money.
Exactly. Although I will say, not every fox is out to steal from you. That's just an offensive stereotype based on Swiper from Dora the Explorer. It's not all foxes, hashtag not all foxes. Actually, now I'm looking at this, that also says no tall foxes, but I do agree with that as well. A tall fox would be very, very scary, and awareness must be raised, hashtag no tall foxes. And all of this lack of oversight is worrying in a system that can be easy to fall into and very difficult to get out of. Remember, it took Rudy and Rennie nearly 2 years to get out from under April Parks, and it was not easy. Although, luckily for them, Rudy was pretty determined.
We're going to pursue it all their way, and we're going for their balls. Just so they know, it's their balls we want.
Okay, that's fine. Rudy seems determined, and he also seems like the first person in human history actually interested in balls, because generally balls are to the human body what stars is to a cable package. It comes with it, we understand that, but it's not nice to look at, and nobody really knows what to do with it. And again, I am not saying that guardianship as a system is inherently bad. There are people who need it, and there are going to be more of them as the silver tsunami approaches. But that is all the more reason for us to improve its checks and balances, from greater regulation to more funding for oversight. And on the personal level, there are steps that everyone can take to avoid being taken advantage of in the future. Most experts tell us it is important to have honest conversations with your family. And I know that sounds like a fucking nightmare. but you have to have these conversations about how you want you and your finances to be taken care of should the need arise. That will help prevent a court from having to step in and appointing a private guardian that could turn out to be an April Parks. Plus, there are some concrete legal steps that you can take. And I know that if you're a little older, you may not want to hear advice from a fresh-faced, holy shit, is he really only 41-year-old? So we've actually enlisted some help to get the message across.
Look, we all get old eventually.
It's just part of life, and someday you will too.
Obviously, you won't age as well as us.
We're glamorous celebrities with access to skincare technology, but won't be on the market for decades.
Look how supple my cheeks are.
You might not age at all. You might die tonight, young.
By getting hit by lightning.
Or eating too many Tide Pods.
Or getting killed by a hippo.
That's actually a lot more likely than you think.
They kill hundreds of people each year.
Oh, you think they're cute? They're fucking killing machines. I mean, look at this.
Hippos are terrible.
But we're not here to talk about hippos.
I am.
Me too.
I love hippos.
What do you mean we're not talking about hippos? I thought this was a whole hippo thing.
Getting older can mean needing someone to help look after you and your affairs.
You should make sure that that's someone you know, and not some random person you've never met who just wants to spend all your money on fucking stretch pants.
That's why it's important to select someone to serve as your health care representative.
And someone who can make decisions for you under a durable power of attorney.
Name people you trust.
Like your son or daughter.
Or a close friend.
Or Mr. Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is the best. Such a nice boy.
Jimmy Stewart would have been my go-to guy, but that was in the past.
Just make sure they're people you'd be comfortable with.
Making financial or health decisions.
On your behalf. I hereby make Tom Hanks.
Mr. Tom Jefferson Hanks.
My health care representative.
This clipboard is filthy.
Signed, yours truly.
Done. And remember to always share these documents with your friends and family.
And discuss your plans so everyone's on the same page.
And even if this feels far off,
you've got to start planning for the future now.
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 Now. Also, hippos are killing machines.
That's the real message here.
Fuck hippos.
Fuck hippos.
Fuck hippos.
What is wrong with you people?
That's our show. Thank you so much for watching and see you next week. Good night.
They kill hundreds of people each year. Ah, you think they're cute? They're fucking machines. No, not fuck. And how do I know that? You may well ask.